Here we go. And this is week number 4 already? It's hard to believe. They go by so fast, these weeks, huh? All right, so let's start out with any insights or things that you've been seeing that has really struck you.
Well, I've been reading The Wisdom Within by Elsie Spittle, and I'm halfway through it already. And in one of the chapters, she starts talking about like how we have insights and like how people try to have them and it's impossible because like your mind's like working too hard and people normally get them like when they've hit rock bottom or whatever you call it, and you kind of like quiet your mind and you people like sort of give up, and then their like wisdom from within it like helps them get out of that situation because it's actually their insights that they're getting how to figure out their problem and solve it on their own. So I thought that was really interesting because lately like I've been having a lot of insights, and it's normally when I've just kind of like it's before going to bed or like late at night or like when I'm on the airplane. I travel a lot. I'm a flight attendant. So when I can't have technology or when I'm not doing something like in the moment is when I get all of the insights, when I'm just sitting there and thinking and like kind of like dazed looking out the window. And it's crazy that that's how it works and people don't realize that like you can't actually try to like it's not something you can work on, like it's just natural.
That's so great. Yeah, that's wonderful. So, do you, the rest of you, do you have that experience too, that an insight just comes like from out of the blue? And that was perfect, Julia. Yeah. Yeah, I know that's how it happens for me. It happens a lot in the morning when I first wake up. Like I keep a pad of paper next to my bed and I have pads all over the place so that I could just start writing when something hits me. But morning before the brain kicks in with
Yeah.
all of the brain thinking,
Hmm.
that's when I get these, woo, cool, just really cool ideas come to mind.
Yeah. And I've realized that if you don't write them down, you forget because I had like 3 or 4 in like within a few days and I've already forgotten all of them. Like when you ask them, like I had so many, but I can't remember what they were. It's crazy.
Which
Like,
is okay too, because an insight sticks with us, whether we wanted to or not, kind of thing. Like once you see something, this is my experience anyway. If any of you see it different, let me know. Let us know. But once you see something, for me, once I see something, I can't go back to seeing it the old way.
mhm.
It's kind of like the cat's out of the bag and now you can't put it back in. I'm trying to think of an example of that. Does anybody have any of you have an example of that?
Don't have an
That's
example, but I understand what you mean by that. I have the same where sometimes I have an insight about something and as quick as I've had the insight, it's then gone. But it almost feels like I've had an upgrade in some way because when I have the situation maybe that I've had the insight about, or it's just something that's relatable, then I'm aware that my understanding is different towards it. Somehow something has gone up a level. Um, so I understand what you're saying. I can't think of any examples, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I wish I could come up with an example of that, how something looks so different and then you forget the insight, but then days later you realize that you're seeing something differently. Like if any of you have any, like, can you point to something that you see really differently now than you did in the past?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Libby.
I just think the alone time, like I'm alone a lot more with my thoughts. So I'm not seeing as friends as much. I'm not seeing coworkers. I'm working from home. And I started to just take walks and things like that, and just trying to enjoy nature and, you know, the beautiful things around me. So that's definitely something that's very different now. Try to appreciate, you know, the day-to-day stuff. So
Yeah, I would call that an insight, right? That
mhm.
it didn't happen because while you were reading something or listening to Sid um, but it just hit you. And what would you say is different than, like, you couldn't go back to an old way? Like when you used to take walks, was it more
I
in
mean,
your
just so many
head?
different distractions, or, you know, people like, you know, having to feel like you know, I'd have to see certain people, or um you know, do things a certain, you know, by a certain schedule, because I have a little bit more time now because I'm working from home. So there's that. Um, yeah, it's just like a little bit of a calmer, like, approach to what's going on in my life, you know. So I think before there was just so many distractions, and now that COVID kind of shut everything down, it's just kind of, you know, you know, at first it was like you're kind of crawling in your own skin, but now I'm kind of used to it. I kind of enjoy the relaxation, the quietness, things like that.
A lot of people are referring to it as the great pause.
Mm,
Like it's giving us an opportunity to pause in our life and have quiet time.
hmm.
And then you find out, wow, it allows us to go inside more.
Yeah, and I think you even said it to me at one time that you realize how much of an introvert you can be, you know, versus extrovert. You know,
Yeah.
you're starting to think about yourself, or, you know, things that you enjoy. I mean, I am anyway, like more reading, more, you know, outdoor activities. Like we did a lot of gardening over the summer, you know, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's neat. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. I think that, when people aren't scaring themselves with their scary thoughts about COVID and
Hmm.
what it means to be more sheltered, more introverted,
Hmm.
what that means when they're not caught up in the meaning of it, then there is a calm, and so much can occur for us. That's where insights happen, when the mind is calm, when we're quiet. Typically, I mean, sometimes you can have an amazing insight in the middle of something really dramatic happening, but more often it's when there is a moment of calm.
Yeah, and you kind of reflect on, you know, what is going on in the world, and what is going on in your life, and you kind of think that certain things aren't important anymore, and, you know, you kind of see things differently.
Oh, that's a good point.
Mm.
Some things we used to think were so important, and then we have an insight and we realize it's really not that important after all.
Hmm.
Anybody
Kind of
else
move
have
on.
that
You kind of
happen?
move on.
What,
You know,
Libby?
you kind of move on. Like, I know when you guys were talking about last week about that one thought can change your perspective, you kind of just, I don't know, just move on to the next thing that you're doing at home or whatever. So,
Yeah, just one thought can change our perspective.
hmm.
Yeah, I think Shanann was referring to that
Yeah,
last week. Huh?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing, right?
Hmm.
Did you all get to see that webinar if you weren't on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so amazing how a person can have such a transformation. It gives everybody hope that available to everybody. One thought away. There's actually a nonprofit called One Thought. No, they're not a nonprofit, but the nonprofit is One Solution, started by Mara Gleason, a woman named Mara Gleason and her husband. They're working with gang members in Chicago. And I think they also do some work internationally also. But yeah, and Sid said that. We're always one thought away from a better experience or a not good experience. We're always one thought away from a different experience. That's brought, experience is brought to us by our thinking. So what other insights have you been having, or something that really stood out for you and something that you're reading or hearing from Sid? Or like Julia mentioned, reading one of Elsie's books. Greg.
There was, well, this was with Shannon, like something that stuck out with Shannon. When I was watching it and they were on the Q&A section, someone, I forgot who asked him, but he was basically talking about, like, there was this patient he had, and he was like kind of the patient, I forgot what the patient had, but it was like a litany of different things. And then he was kind of going through like, he spent like 25 minutes talking about like thought and how thought affects like other things like feelings and this and that. So I thought that kind of stuck out because like, I think he said like after 25 minutes, the patient was like, oh, I'm good. Can I go? Or something like that. I forgot what exactly happened.
Yeah, that you think that it's going to take weeks or even months or even maybe years for somebody to have such a massive shift or such a big change of heart. And then it could just be 25 minutes. If the insight the person has is big enough, that's it. They've got what they need. They don't have to spend, weeks and hours thinking about what their problem is. Does that make sense? That's a great example of we're always one thought away. Like the minute you have an insight, the minute you see something that shifts things, and you never know when that's going to happen. Could happen in the shower, could happen when you're driving, could happen when you're reading Sid or Elsie or, yeah.
I was talking to a girlfriend just before tonight, the Zoom call, and it was
You
quite.
were talking to who?
I was talking to a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who's been very very depressed for a long time, and she was talking about her childhood and sort of saying, I don't really feel like I've ever been happy, and I don't see the point to living. And it was quite a difficult conversation because I felt that all I could do was listen. So I don't really feel, that I helped her in any way. But just before the Zoom started, I actually opened the book because she was talking about, the world situation and everything, and she's just really tired. And I picked it up where Sid says here, look within your own consciousness. Here lies the answer to all of humanity's problems. And I thought that was just beautiful. It's not something I shared with her, obviously, because it was after the call, but I just thought that was lovely because it's so true. And like you were saying earlier, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to suffer for a lifetime. We can just a thought away from a new perspective.
Yeah.
And something so big as looking at our own consciousness in terms of humanity's problems, you know, it is incredible, isn't it? You know, because it is that, can that be that quick in the moment?
Yeah. Yeah. What book was it? Did you read that in?
It was in The Missing Link. It's
Oh, in The Missing Link.
yeah,
Yeah.
55 in The Missing Link. Yeah.
You know about our Missing Link project, Becky? Where
Which,
everybody is gonna take a, you know, anybody who wants to can take a chapter and we're gonna compile it. Be great to have your accent on there. Flick started. She's not on the call today, but she did. We're working like the back of the book up because you know how it piles up in Facebook. Same thing for YouTube. The most recent one is on top. So we're doing, you know, so you can just pick a chapter. And I tell people to just turn on their Zoom and read the chapter. And if you wanted to add after you read the chapter what it means to you or an example from your own life, that would be cool too. But you can just read the chapter if you want. And then we'd have the book Audible, you know, a webinar basically, or I guess it would be stacked like different videos of everybody reading The Missing Link. It's a short book. It's a wonderful book. It's really, I have it right here. So, yeah. And you know, Richard Mayer, he's not on today, but he, you know, he designed the whole book cover. And if you watch Shenan's, he also did the video for Mystery School, which is super cool. It lights up and it moves like this. He's a whiz when it comes to that sort of thing. It's fun. So what else is striking you? Pallavi, you snuck in. Yeah, good to see you.
Hi.
How are things going for you?
I'm good. I feel I'm kind of settling down, or like I've been settling down the whole year in the whole lockdown situation. Most of the time I enjoyed it, but I guess it's because I've been diving into the 3P the whole year, I guess. So I had a lot of I had the feeling there was enough going on like inside of me, and I didn't need so much happening on the outside. And right now I'm feeling I'm getting really quiet. Like I'm not going on a lot of calls or even, you know, like even watching so many things. I'm still listening to Sid each day. Like I really love that. So, and I've been reading a few books again too. Like I'm reading Second Chance, and I really during the last weeks enjoy reading The Missing Link too. Like I guess in the beginning I found it a bit too abstract, or I don't know, like I found it hard to read, but it changed over time. And yeah, I don't know, like I really feel I don't have so much to say right now.
Well, so great that you joined us, even though you're trying to, I know you've been doing a lot of 3 principles groups and listening in at talks and things. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming to this one. That, you know, feels
Oh,
very
thank you.
special. Yeah, great to see you.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do like, I think the second to the last chapter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I forgot about it actually. I will do it tomorrow and send it to you. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's super. And I think Greg is gonna do a chapter, right, Greg?
Mm.
Yeah, be great to
Yeah.
have, you know, males, females, different accents. Yeah, I think it'll be so cool. Yeah, I love The Missing Link. It's very, I think, you know, it's the most, because all of Sid's other books are of, they're like, they read like novels, but within the story that he's telling, whether it be on the island of Hawaii in Second Chance and in Search of the Pearl, or at the psychology conference in England for the Enlightened Gardener, those two are an amazing series, The Enlightened Gardener and The Enlightened Gardener Revisited. Just amazing what's in there. It's just wow. But The Missing Link is just, I don't know, philosophy. It really, well, theosophy. Because there's a difference between people who are philosophers and people who are theosophers. So it might be good for me to read this little part, which is at the beginning of The Missing Link, because it really tells why I have people reading and listening to Sid. On page 13, Sid wrote, philosophers search for basic principles. They gain knowledge by reading books and studying other people's opinions and concepts, then mold them together with their own personal opinions of life. So it's really, philosophers are gathering information and imbuing that with their own personal opinions about life. Now, a theosopher's understanding comes from a direct experience using his or her own innate knowledge, or if you wish, from what is sometimes known as original thought. So, that's the advantage that we have, is that, here was this ordinary person. Sid was as ordinary as they come, is how he would describe himself. And he had this extraordinary experience that revealed to him how human beings experience life every moment, from moment to moment. This is how it happens, folks, through the three principles: mind, thought, and consciousness. I mean, and there's so much to see in that very simple paradigm. Like I'm writing a blog for Valentine's Day about love, the secret of love, I'm calling it. And, all the things that couples recognize just by virtue of understanding that these three principles they're invisible. That's the word I'm looking for. They're invisible. You can't smell them. You can't teach them. You can't, touch them. You can't say, here's thought. This is thought. They're mind, thought, and consciousness. It's all invisible. But yet understanding that that's inside of us, invisibly, creating, imbuing life with our own take on it, our own spin, our own thinking. But if you take it back to the power of thought, the fact that we think, that we have this amazing ability, yikes, couples begin to see that it's crazy to fight. Number one, why would you fight? If they have their thinking and you have your thinking, and you'd get interested and curious about their thinking. You wouldn't try to argue it or, change their mind, right? Couples can open up more because they realize that it's just their thinking. They can open up about it so much easier. There's nothing to be ashamed of, because anything one person can think, 10 others could be thinking too. Or their partner could be thinking even. What else, have you noticed about love and relationships, and how that understanding this inside out nature of life, how that shifts things for you? Pallavi, yeah.
Yeah, it's just so interesting what you say about these, that you don't need to fight, because for me, this is like a big thing, not only in my relationships, but in all kinds of relationships or social contacts, that it just seems so futile, because it becomes so clear that, okay, I have my kind of thinking and I have my opinion, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more that it's kind of, it's just one little opinion, and it depends on my upbringing, my conditioning, blah blah, all my beliefs and the kind of information I take in. And it looks true to me, and I think I'm becoming more aware that for everybody else it's just the same, like whatever they are thinking and however stupid I might think it is, it just looks true to them, and so it feels true to them. And like you said, Laurie, there's just not so much sense in fighting about it. And it's kind of interesting, it feels even weird sometimes, because I feel like I don't put so much energy in my opinions anymore. Like I I'm not so interested in them myself, because I also notice they change and they are not objective in any way. And yeah, it's funny. It's kind of weird. But it's nice, because it's like there's more space for just hanging out with someone when I don't need to argue so much about all the little stuff, about all the details.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, right. Well, what do you think it is that, why do you think you were arguing before you realized this?
I think it's just a misunderstanding to identify so much with the content of your thinking. And I also thought, like, when you just read from The Missing Link, it's really interesting, this difference between philosophy and theosophy, because I feel like for me it's been, this change has been happening, like, in, obviously not in the big exciting way Sid had this experience, but I feel like before, the 20 years before, I've been searching in different spiritual and psychological approaches, and I've been kind of gathering information and trying to figure it out. But now, since learning about the 3P, I feel like I'm more, I get an experience sometimes of something, and then it really becomes my knowledge and my inner knowing. And it's totally different from before. So I think that's very interesting, because Sid talks about this difference, and he also has this quality in his teachings to make it available for every one of us, because he points so much into this thing of look inside yourself and to find the truth inside yourself. So, and I don't know if you guys, if you have anybody is really new here, I just realized that what was really nice for me this year is that I feel that even if stuff seems sticky sometimes, like we all have our favorite issues that seem really solid and really like a problem. And I just wanted to say that what I noticed, I came across this because of chronic pain. And this was like a big and scary issue for me, and very hard to see something new about it. But I just noticed that after time, and with seeing new things about other topics that are not so scary for me, like with little steps, I also saw new stuff about the pain, and it really shifted, like my whole attitude towards it, my whole experience really shifted. And yeah, I just feel like it's good to know that it shifts on its own, and you just sometimes need a bit of patience and gentleness with yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. The things that are really seem like they're gargantuan in our life, like they're really um, sticky, as you put it, Pallavi, that we don't always see the principles in action, so to speak, um, with those big things, like having pain bodily, either from an injury or fibromyalgia or the many things that create pain for people. That would be a big thing, if you're walking around suffering from chronic pain, that is huge for that person. But if you can start to see how the principles work, how it's an inside out experience of life in other ways, say in your relationship, that you seeing that fighting doesn't make sense, or you're able to open up more, or something of that nature, then, like you said, that you could start seeing it even with the big things in life. Yeah, I like that. That's so true. Yeah. And it's not our business. You know, we talk about, you know, you got to have patience with yourself. And it's not our business to worry about or wonder when that big thing is going to get taken care of. You're on like a course of study, you're on a journey, you're exploring, you're learning from Sid or, you know, Elsie, and or coming on these webinars you're learning. And so that's showing you some new things. And, you know, you never know when you're going to have a huge shift. You just never know in any particular area. It's another question I wanted to ask you guys, which was, oh, I don't know, escape me. Let's see what comes. Oh, I know what it was. Wanted to know if any of you had, you know, like Shannon was talking about at the end of the last webinar, he was talking about how he saw how the principles helped him forgive himself. Has any of you had a similar experience where you realize you did something really stupid, really dumb human trick, and then, you know, you feel guilty or, you know, embarrassed or even ashamed, and then you realize through the fact of this psychological innocence that we're all innocent to what's in our blind spot until it's revealed to us. And sometimes it doesn't get revealed to us until we do something really stupid. And then you have to forgive yourself for being such an idiot. Any of you have that? I bet we all have that.
I mean, for me, this was one of the things that really took some time with the pain thing, because I always felt like it's my own stupid behavior that leads to chronic pain, because like it's a chronic stress disease, blah, blah. So I should be able to get out of it. And this was just a few weeks ago that I suddenly, like in some moment, I suddenly felt like I felt compassion for myself for the first time in all these years of having pain. I always struggled to get out of it, but I never really felt compassion for myself for going through it. And it was like, because of this psychological innocence thing about understanding that I'm always just doing the best I can with the thinking I have, and I could actually see that I'm doing the best I can, and still I'm caught up in some stuff and in beliefs and judgments. And yeah, it was very, very sweet to like, I felt like I was going back and forth a lot with this whole thing of feeling like failing and feeling guilty for it. And sometimes it got better and I saw something new about it, and then I got back into it. But it was really very remarkable for me to feel consciously that I felt compassion for the first time. Before, I wasn't even aware that I didn't feel compassion for myself for the whole thing. So it was kind of interesting, the blind spots that are sometimes there.
Wow, I'll say that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, here you are through no fault of your own, experiencing pain. And it took all this time to really feel compassion for yourself. Like, that's really something, right? But for Grace Go I mean, I could see myself doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Like you were blaming yourself for having pain?
Yeah.
How could that be your fault?
Yeah, but you know, like with the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and I'm into all the meditation stuff since decades. And so I learned pretty quickly that it's a chronic stress disease. So I was just feeling stupid that I'm meditating for 20 years and I'm still getting a chronic stress disease. And even though I know I'm not even able to get out of it. So that's enough for me to blame. So
Right, right. Oh yeah, there's so much out there in writing and beliefs people have. Like there was this belief for a while that people who got cancer, it was their fault.
there's so many weird beliefs out there about disease. And I mean, I think it's really a difficult topic because it's good to be aware of the mind-body connection and to see that it has to do with our nervous system and state of mind and everything. But I guess for a lot of people, it's not so easy to find the line of taking responsibility or seeing what's happening and not blaming yourself for it. And like for me, this was a really difficult topic.
Ah, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I guess this could happen with a lot of stuff, like when you understand stuff intellectually, but you still can't change your behavior or your thinking because it doesn't happen from the intellect, it happens from inside. So for me, it's kind of hard when I feel like I understand things, but I still don't really get them, and they still stay the way they are. And I guess for me, it's the pain issue, but probably can happen with everything you see you're doing, and you would like to stop, but you just aren't there yet.
Absolutely. I mean, what a great example, right? That we can beat up on ourselves in ways that, um, when we see how innocent that was, then you have compassion for other people too, because you realize that they're beating up on themselves also. Yeah, we can be the hardest on ourselves. Yeah. So, today's theme, we've already started talking about it, is about separate realities. That everybody sees and experience things differently. It's like we have our own individual thought bubble. We walk around in our own little world, our own thought bubble, you know, to X degree. Some people, you wonder what planet they're from because their reality seems so different than your own. And some people, like the people you live with, they could just be slightly different. But no two people, it's like no two snowflakes, no two people have the same exact reality all the time. What are you finding about that? That how people see things differently, like people you're close to and people you're not close to. People
I
in work.
think there's a beauty within that. I think it's helped me to be a lot more tolerant of myself and other people. Very definitely, since I had the 3P understanding, I feel much more compassionate for myself, just in small ways and in bigger ways as well, to do with things that I would normally have been quite upset about in the past. I had a situation where a girlfriend has sort of moved. We don't see each other as much anymore, and normally I might have been quite upset about that, but to me there's a beauty in that now, that her reality has changed, and maybe I wasn't quite ready for that, but she, her life is opening up in new ways, and I feel much more compassionate with that change in our friendship. It's not that we don't see each other, we just don't see each other so much. And that there's a gentleness to it that I wouldn't have had maybe before.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds also like understanding, right? Compassion and understanding. You understand, and that's beautiful, to even though there's been a change, that you're not judging it or criticizing it. Yeah. Anybody else? Somebody who hasn't said anything? Any questions you have or comments or anything? I also love that, and just unmute yourself when you want to speak. But I also love this idea of, the theme for the week being separate realities, and how our own reality is so different when we're coming from our ego versus coming from our deeper soul-centered wisdom, whatever words you want to use for it. I mean, you can feel the difference, right? I mean, I feel like I just get better at it, better at sensing the difference when in my ego, and then I laugh at myself faster when I notice it. Does anybody else have that experience? Where you kind of chuckle at yourself and say, oh my gosh, there you go.
I sometimes struggle with days where it feels like I'm sometimes have a few days where it seems very easy to drop into this nice feeling, and it basically stays there in the background, and it's very peaceful, and I enjoy my life, and it's nice. And then I have some days where just my mind is busy, no matter if I do something about it or not or whatever, and I just feel like I'm missing something. I'm missing this nice feeling, but I can't find it. It's like I obviously know that it's still there, but yeah, I feel like I'm seeing it more, and I'm kind of watching it. I'm not really in peace with it all the time. Like I guess I'm resisting the times where I feel so like my mind's talking too much. Yeah, but I guess
Oh, that's a good point. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So was there a little judgment in there
yeah.
when you're not peaceful?
I don't like it.
Yeah, but anybody on this call, I don't know of anybody who's peaceful all the time. Sid wasn't, Sid would have his moments. Um, Elsie isn't peaceful all the time. She's probably peaceful more of the time than I am, I'm guessing. That's just because she sees more, I think. I don't know. Who knows? Who am I to judge, who sees more than me or anybody else? Who knows? We only know what's in ourselves. We only know what we're seeing, really. And we get a hint of what somebody else is seeing when they're speaking or sharing. Yeah. Anything else? Nikki, you have anything you want to share, or
I suppose
Tiari?
I was just thinking about like your mood state, because I have some really sticky thoughts at the moment and have had for some time in my relationship. And I just, what I notice is, if you're in quite a low mood state, how compelling the thoughts are, and how they just seem so true. And then when you're in a good mood, the thoughts can still be there, but they just don't bother you in the same way. I suppose I'm just really noticing the difference, if that makes sense.
I think so. You mean, yeah, say it again, because I wasn't hearing you at first. I had to
So
turn up my,
I guess just noticing the quality of thought from different mood states. So, when your mood's quite low, some sticky thoughts that you might have seem very true and very compelling. And then when you notice that your mood's shifted and you're in a better place, how they just don't bother you in the same way. Just the difference between the two, I suppose, is what I'm noticing at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. The quality of the mood is like a quality of thinking. I love that, right? Like a low mood is low quality thinking, and a high mood is high quality thinking. And if we don't judge them, it just, that's just riding the waves of life. Now, if we start judging them, it's like judging ourselves for when we do something stupid. That's going to keep us stuck in that low level of consciousness, or whatever word you want to use, in a lower mood. If we're judging ourselves or beating up on ourselves, it's really like, welcome to the human condition. That this is what we're up against as humans. We're up against our thinking. Not unlike anybody else we know, every human is up against their own thinking.
Kind of have something to share that I guess realized and I've noticed lately, and I guess it's with regards to self-forgiveness and and I want to listen back to some of the things that Shanann said last week about that. But I think what I'm realizing is that once you can kind of like separate certain thoughts from your wisdom thinking and your ego thinking and realize that maybe something that you're feeling a certain way about or being hard on yourself about maybe was due to ego thinking and maybe not listening to your wisdom or really that self-awareness of what you know is right or what you know is wrong. And if you can kind of decipher that difference and then say, look, like this was in my blind spot or I didn't realize this, so I shouldn't be beating myself up so bad or punishing myself so bad in whatever way. For me, even just to come to a little realization on my journey, so to say, has already helped me to kind of, I guess, maybe be easier on myself in some ways, and realize that I guess just seeking a better self-awareness is a step in that process and understanding your thoughts.
Yeah, that's so great, to have compassion for ourselves, because that allows us to have compassion for other people.
Yes.
That saying, but for grace go I. It's so true. If I was, if I went through the same situation Shanann went through, I could have done some pretty crazy things too. And that's true for all of us. Yeah, because none of us were taught in school about the fact that we have wisdom and we also have personal thinking. They're teaching it in school now. There are programs. One is called The Spark, another one is called iHeart. There's this cute book called something about a dragonfly. And Jack Pransky wrote books called What is a Thought for Children. I mean, it's wonderful. The parents reading these books to the children, I think, get more out of it than the kids, maybe. But and Where is Wisdom? That's another great book by Jack Pransky. But we were not raised with this understanding of the fact that life happens inside out. So it looks like it's happening to us. Whatever we're thinking, it looks like it's happening to us. Poor me that I'm treated this way, or poor me that I'm not being treated and I'm being ignored, or now we know that if we feel ignored, if we feel we're not being treated right, that's coming from the person there. Let's say, we're being ignored by our good friend or our partner in life, and we realize, oh, something must be going on for them. It's not against me. Then we would check in with them. Hey, is everything okay? You've been not yourself, or, I'm feeling distance here. But if we take it personally, it wouldn't even occur to us to check in with them. We would just think that they are not treating us right. We would go into our ego, into, he's not respecting me, she's not respecting me, which so many people do. And it's innocent that they do that because they don't know about this inside out happening that goes on in life. It's cool, isn't it? Just think that's so cool. Yeah, so you have compassion for people. Well, you tell them to come join mystery school so they can learn too. We're all learning together. Any of Sid's, we only have a few more minutes, huh? But I'm just curious, any of Sid's recordings that you've listened to that have struck you? I discovered I could listen to them with my headset while I'm doing dishes or while I'm cooking or chopping vegetables. So I'm having fun with that, and that alleviates a feeling of being alone because I've got Sid in my ears.
I tried listening to him while doing something else, but somehow I can't. Like I really have to sit down and listen because I don't know, maybe I don't want to miss anything or whatever, but I like it best when I just lie down and listen to him and like really have the quiet.
Oh yeah, that is the best. That is the
It's
best.
nice.
Yeah.
I do it instead of meditating,
Yeah, right. Who's to say that meditation is better than that, than lying down and just listening to what Sid has to say? Yeah. Right.
Also, it's very extreme how you can listen to the same talk again and again and again. Like I can listen for weeks and still feel I didn't, like I didn't hear that before.
Right. That's so true. So it's got to be our own consciousness, right? That'll pick up on more.
Yeah.
It's got to be. Yeah. Who else? Anybody else before we end? Anything else you'd like to do differently in mystery school, have more of, less of? We're creating this together. It was Pallavi or Flick's idea, one of the two of you, that was your idea to do a reading, everybody take a different chapter of, can't remember which one of you, but that's how we're all like, bouncing off one another. It's really cool. Silence is golden.
Lori, for me, I think it might be helpful if you give us like a little homework assignment, like a paragraph to read or something you want to focus on, because I'm still trying to understand Sid's stuff, and I've been just going online and reading stuff like the missing link. I don't even have a copy of that, so I have to get that. And I don't know. I just maybe if we had like a certain passage that we could all discuss, kind of like,
Ooh,
you know, something that you think like,
that's a good idea. Well, how about this? The next week, you each find a passage that you would like us to
yeah,
discuss.
or that too. That's good
How
too.
about that? I like that idea. See, this is how we
They
all,
call that jigsaw learning,
they
where
call it what learning?
jigsaw learning. So it's like a puzzle. Everyone puts a piece together, and then you get this whole, you know, learning of a topic.
Oh, cool. I never heard that before. I like that. Yeah, so everybody come with your jigsaw piece next time, next Monday. I like that.
Okay, that's
And
good.
see what we hear in it. Yeah, that's really cool. And it could be, you know, a paragraph that you're stumped on. You're not really seeing, you know, that there's more to see in it, but you're not seeing it. That
Yeah,
kind
and what does this mean? You know, what is, you know, if you read, everyone's got a different point of view when they read something also, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great idea. Love it.
Good.
Love it, love it, love it. So, and I'll post that too for, you know, people.
Okay, homework, everyone.
Homework, yeah.
Yep.
Homework assignment. Yeah, sure. I was just thinking, you know, I was leaving it open-ended to start off with Second Chance and then go on to In Search of the Pearl. But, you know, if you're not like, you know, when I first read Second Chance, right over the top, it made no impact at all. So, you know, I love that Julia discovered Elsie Spittle. Elsie, and that's her real last name, Spittle, spelled just like Spittle. Elsie was Sid's first student and first teacher. So she's got a lot of great books out. Those books may strike you more than Sid's do. But listening to Sid, all those audios and videos, I think are just, wow. You know, they're just incredible.
I really
You know.
liked The Enlightened Gardener. I think it was the first book I read, and I think, like, to me, it was pretty easy to read, like even easier than listening to him, because he really explains stuff, and he explains it to these guys who have learned all the psychological stuff, and I think most of us have learned quite a lot of these classical psychological approaches, and so in this book, like Sid really explains the difference, like what's different about the 3P. And to me, this was very helpful. Like I always recommend it for people who want to, you know, like get a bit of an idea of what's different there. And, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. That's right. The Enlightened Gardener is about, if any of you haven't heard, it's about a psychology conference that takes place in England. I don't know if it's London or somewhere nearby. And so the psychologists attending this conference, they strike up a conversation with the gardener, and they learn more from the gardener, who of course is Sid, than they do from the psychology conference. And all of the characters, like I couldn't follow the characters, like I didn't want to be bothered. That was like too much mental activity for me to try to remember who's who. So I didn't pay attention to that. It might help some of you though. But one was very resistant, like this is BS, you know, and somebody else was catching on, you know, like somebody caught on quickly and somebody else was catching on slowly. So that's a good suggestion. I like that. The Enlightened Gardener. And then the Enlightened Gardener Revisited, to me, was a mind blower, because anything I've ever heard or learned from Sid is in that book. Like I started highlighting it and I was like highlighting the whole book. Yeah, but you have to read the first one, The Enlightened Gardener, first. You know, it sets the stage. But to me, the sequel to that was, oh my gosh. Yeah, love that book. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody. This has been so super. I just love getting together, and the week seems to go so fast. Just can't believe how fast a week is going. And this is when, being at home alone during a pandemic, and it still flies by. So any last words before we say goodbye for the week? And comment, write stuff, share stuff in the Facebook group. That's a big part of it, I think. Yeah. So I guess nothing else. We'll just say goodbye and have a good week. Have a really sweet week with cool insights. And I look forward to seeing you next Monday.
You too, Laurie. Thank
Hey,
you so
Laurie,
much.
thank you.
Laurie, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.